Right now at 6, bracing for another bitterly cold night.
We want to make sure that we're doing the best we can to get people indoors and avoid the dangerous temperatures.
Also ahead, is your vehicle ready to handle slippery roads?
I said it's kind of like a fitted bed sheet around the back side of the tire.
Then why a father is facing criminal charges after a teenage girl, a friend of his son's, died from a drug overdose.
This is what we could charge in this case, and this is what we're going to go forward with.
And later, look out below. What caused the roof of a high school gym to suddenly collapse.
Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. We begin at 6 with a live look over the Rose City. 36 degrees on this Tuesday evening. A beautiful moonrise there, with temperatures once again forecast to plummet into the low 20s overnight as we track both snow and ice on the horizon. We have live team coverage tonight of multiple weather impact alert days headed our way as new cold weather shelters open and drivers get ready to get their vehicles for that travel on those roads. We check in on those right after Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino, who's in the Weather Center with the latest on the forecast and the timing. Matt?
Yeah, the thinking of the forecast hasn't really changed, nor has the timing yet, but we'll keep track of this because it could in the next 48 hours. We have a weather impact alert Thursday and Friday, and I think the snow will roll into the Portland area from the south sometime midday Thursday, say noonish, give or take, okay? And it'll come and go for a bit. I think that first wave won't be that heavy, but later Thursday afternoon, we should see a heavier band. That's when the roads may get slick and the travel may get tough in time for the Thursday afternoon commute. So be prepared from Thursday into Friday morning to stay home if necessary. If you don't like traveling on snowy or icy roads, just make sure you have everything at home that you need to stay comfortable over that basically 24-hour period, right? It is a beautiful night, though. There's the moon, be full in a couple of days. It is a cold, cold evening at 36 already. East winds making the wind chill down to 28. And now that the sun has gone down with this dry air, the temperature is going to plummet really, really quickly. So, yes, we'll expect a cold night. We're only running about 2 or 3 degrees colder now compared to this time last night. A little bit more in McMinnville. But by morning, we'll be several degrees colder than we were this morning. Look at Eastern Oregon, 10, 12, 13 degrees colder than 24 hours ago. We've got an extreme cold weather warning in the gorge for the combination of the cold temperatures and the winds, making dangerous wind chills down around 0, even below 0 there and in the Cascades. The timeline, we'll go over this in more detail a little bit later, but again, expect the snow to begin around midday Thursday, David.
All right, Matt, thank you. Appreciate you tracking it all. We're going to bring in Devin Haskins in southeast Portland now. So Devin, Multnomah County apparently did not have enough shelter beds for people trying to get out of the cold last night. I mean, really temperatures that could be dangerous, especially with the wind chill.
That's right, David. Didn't have enough beds, but they weren't turning anybody away. So if anybody showed up to one of these shelters they had open, they were still let inside. And now the county opening 2 more shelters, including this one here at Grand and Oak here on the central east side. Now having 5 shelters that they can help bring people in from these dangerous temperatures.
After a night of dangerously cold temperatures, the sub-freezing weather is prompting more people to seek shelter. Andrew Roscoe was one of them.
It was just freezing outside last night. I usually stay out, but I couldn't last night.
Cook Plaza at 194th and Southeast Stark was one of 3 shelters the county opened Monday night.
They had nice inflatable mats, they had blankets provided with us, hot water, food, friggin' restrooms, everything we could possibly need.
The nonprofit that runs the Cook Plaza shelter says it had 80 beds available, with only 7 left unused.
Toward the end, they were pretty full, but at the beginning of the night, they were empty. There were several beds open.
It was a different story at this shelter at Northwest 14th and Hoyt in the Pearl.
It was going to be 25 degrees, and I am currently experiencing homelessness.
Mariah Crabtree and her friend Jimmy slept inside. The shelter had around 30 more people come inside than they had beds for.
We didn't feel the crowded out or anything.
It was busy, but it wasn't crowded. I didn't feel crowded.
The 3 severe weather shelters throughout the county had enough beds for 240 people, but the need was greater than that.
We hit 285 across those beds.
Multnomah County declared a state of emergency on Monday, and by Tuesday morning had extended it through at least Thursday evening. The county will also open 2 additional shelters.
This is unprecedented, and we're lucky it's been dry for the most part, but this is a huge stretch of pretty cold weather we're having.
And should the shelters overfill again, the county says it can add more space to the current shelters or open additional ones as needed.
Yeah, it says the needs out there, and we definitely need the places.
County says it'll make a day-by-day decision on if it needs to expand or add new beds or space to those already existing shelters. It also said that it would keep the shelters open. It could keep the shelters open throughout the day longer. They're currently open from 8 p.m. to noon. These shelters are all pet-friendly and accessible to anyone with disabilities. David?
Yeah, trying to be flexible as the weather changes there. Thank you, Devin. Let's bring in meteorologist Joe Ranieri now. Joe, the memory of last year's ice storm still feels fresh, though at the same time, we really haven't seen true winter conditions in the valley this season, which means some of us, myself included here, could be out of practice.
That's exactly right. That's a good point. That's a storm we're still talking about 13 months later. Now, again, we're not expecting to see anything as big as we saw in January of 2024, but what we could be seeing is the valley's first winter event with some snow and freezing rain in the next couple of days. And the one thing we tend to forget to handle this snow and ice is when we get behind the wheel. This winter in the valley and the metro area has been pretty quiet, but there's a chance that could change by the later part of this week. For some people, driving in this is a piece of cake.
I grew up in upstate New York with a lot of ice and snow, so my whole family's comfortable driving on it.
For others, it's a headache. The biggest challenges drivers face, controlling their car on the slick roads.
Definitely lots of calls for chains. Hey, is it time to get my tires put on? How long's the wait?
Aaron Smithers is the store manager at the Les Schwab on Walker Road in Beaverton. He has this tip for when you start sliding.
You're going to be going slower than normal. Give yourself extra distance from the car in front of you. And most vehicles anymore, if I got anti-lock brakes, don't pump the brake pedal. The car's smart enough to do that for you.
The best way to keep you on the road? Tire chains.
When it comes into your real extreme stuff, chains are your best option in that deep, loose snow and muck. If you can't fit a chain, then that's when a sock would come into play.
Smithers suggests two kinds. These quick fit chains.
Most of the newer stuff, you don't have to lay them on the ground and drive over them like you did the old school chains. Most of them you wrap around the back side of the tire from the one side to the other, and all your attachments are done on the outer half.
The second are these socks. And if you can make your own bed, you can put these on.
The socks are the easiest one. They're also the lightest duty. They kind of go on like a fitted bed sheet. You'd stretch the top half around the tire, pull forward or back, stretch the other half around the tire.
Drivers like Richard Warren have great advice for people who might come face to face with the valley's first snowfall of the year.
And if they're not comfortable driving, they shouldn't be driving.
And David, some other advice too. If you haven't put on chains or those tire socks, recently or ever, make sure you do it in your driveway before you go out there on the snow and ice later this week. That way you can be assured that they actually fit, and of course you know how to put them on. Back to you.
Yeah, practice makes perfect, and when in doubt, stay home. Thank you, Joe. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of both the extreme cold and as we track the chances of snow and ice later this week. Look for the latest on air, plus anytime on KGW.com and on our streaming app that is KGW Plus. And coming up tonight at 11, how the inbound winter storm could disrupt Valentine's Day. That's Friday, and the financial boost that so many local businesses count on. In your headlines now, a Salem man is facing bias crime charges after police say he racially harassed and pointed a gun at a Hispanic family. Police say the two adults and a young girl were waiting for a tow truck. This was around 5 Sunday night near Coral Avenue and Sunnyview Road. That's when they say 27-year-old Jonathan Hahn brandished a shotgun and shouted racial slurs. Police arrived and seized the gun. Hahn is charged with menacing, bias crime, and unlawful use of a weapon. In Washington County, authorities have arrested a man for indecent exposure. Investigators say 34-year-old Ryan Dutter would order hot water from drive-thrus in the Aloha area, then linger around parking lots in a way that concerned staff. On at least 2 occasions, witnesses reported Dutter touching himself in public view. Police arrested him last Friday and charged him with public indecency and illegally possessing metal knuckles. The sheriff's office is asking any additional victims to give them a call. And a reminder for voters in Clark County, you have less than 2 hours now to turn in your ballot for today's special election. There are 4 replacement levies on the ballot for Evergreen, Vancouver, and Battleground schools. A construction bond also for the Hawkinson District, and a levy to boost police funding in Camas. And after an arsonist burned hundreds of ballots in a Vancouver drop box last year, county officials want to reassure voters their ballots are protected.
Each of those ballot drop boxes now have a new and improved, a much better fire suppression device than what we were using previously.
Again, that drop-off deadline is 8 o'clock tonight. Now at 6, a Portland father was formally charged today in connection with the death of a Portland teenager who overdosed on fentanyl inside his home. Daisy Caballero is live outside the Multnomah County Courthouse. Daisy, important to note here, this case dates back a couple of years, and the victim was 15 years old.
Yeah, David, it was emotional inside of the courtroom as the judge denied the parents' request for a pre-trial detention. The parents also telling me that it was the first time that they've seen the man now charged in connection to their daughter's death in years. On Tuesday, Human Tony Rahamoon of Portland was formally charged in connection to the overdose fentanyl death of 15-year-old Lauren Dominguez back in 2023. Rahamoon is charged with 3 misdemeanors, including 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor. In court, he appeared visually emotional and repeatedly said, I'm sorry," to the Dominguez family. According to court documents, Rahamoon's 17-year-old son admitted he had provided fentanyl to Dominguez in the past, but during this investigation, it was determined that the drugs came from someone else the night she died.
In this particular instance, those were the charges that we could find to fit in this situation. Do I think there's greater severity to what happened? Obviously, yes.
Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez says these types of cases are something he's started to see more of throughout the state.
We want to make sure that we use the law appropriately, and we've looked at other charges. These were the ones that were appropriate under the facts of this case, and we will try to do our best to be aggressive and hold people accountable for the death of a 15-year-old girl.
According to the Dominguez family, Lauren had snuck out the night of her death. Her older sister was able to locate where she was, so the family drove over. They also called 911 and knocked on the Rahamoon residence with no response until
Mr. Rahamoon came down the driveway about 15 minutes later, letting us know that his son and Lauren were using drugs and Lauren wasn't breathing.
Lauren's parents say they are fighting to stop this from happening to other teens across Oregon.
Unfortunately, do believe that our child was caught in a perfect storm of COVID and
Measure 110.
Measure 110's infrastructure.
The maximum penalty will be a year for each charge, and DA Vasquez says his office will stand with the Dominguez family every step of the way. Now, the parents also tell me that they had never met the Rahamoon family prior to their daughter's death. He is set back in court on March 11th. David, back to you.
Can imagine how difficult it is for them to talk about and relive that moment as well. Thank you, Daisy.